I'm not trying to say that we don't have a crisis.
Yeah.
We do. Just look around. People are in tremendous sorrow, tremendous pain. It's more that the data seems to show that people are getting married, and therefore the crisis is that people are having tremendous trouble getting married, and it's taking way longer than they would like. That does seem to go against a little bit of what people had thought is the problem. People had, which is actually kind of what sparked why I did this research. I'd been reading a lot of people talking about how chas v'shalom 10 or even 20% of from girls and yeshiva Orthodox in our community are never going to get married. And I remember seeing, actually, like right before I started this, somebody say that once a girl reaches the age of 25, she's very unlikely to ever get married after that if she's not already married. And that struck me as being something that, if it's true, then yes, obviously we need to immediately do anything we can to fix that. But the reasons that people gave that they thought that didn't totally convince me. That whether it was based on a few yeshivas in Lakewood, that one thing that I remember, or it was based on numbers that they assumed about when were people getting married and the age gap between men and women. It seemed to me that if it's true, we really need to deal with this right away, but I didn't know if that was correct. And Baruch Hashem, I've been able to get some research skills.
Okay, and let's focus on the age gap theory for a moment, as it's called, and how your research sort of challenges that. And I'll have you describe it if you can. In a nutshell, the idea is that in the Haredi world, boys tend to date girls and marry girls that are younger than them. So let's say a 23-year-old boy, not uncommon to marry a 20 or 21-year-old girl, maybe a 19-year-old girl, 24 and 22, etc. Not always the case, but that's the trend. And the idea is there's a population increase. So every year, presumably, there are more children born. So that means there are not as many 23-year-old boys in the dating pool as there are 20 or 21-year-old girls. Can you describe that? And why your research basically is saying that that's not correct? And then the question a lot of us have is, how could that not be correct?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just the age gap hypothesis, that we're assuming that because there's a community growth of approximately what we say is 5% a year, these people talk about this, and then there's what people say is a 4-year age gap. If you combine those two pieces of information, it makes sense that there should be more girls entering the dating pool and getting married available to get married than boys, which would create a problem. And yeah, I did not find that so much, in that people did seem to be getting married, boys and girls are approximately the same level. So I'm to do the study if it's so obvious, and I came up with a bunch of possibilities. One is that I hypothesized that there's a smaller marriage age gap than people were thinking. So girls start at 19 and boys at 23 approximately, but maybe it's taking girls longer to get married than boys. And maybe overall the actual marriage age gap is smaller. And when I looked at the data, I have, I don't know, 5,000 people approximately that I have that data about spouses and the age gap. And the answer for people who are Yeshiva Orthodox in our community, it was only about 2 years different. 2.2 to be exact, but that's less than 4. So that already cuts that whole model in half.
Right.
It just because you're dividing one of those variables by 2. And then as for the remainder of it, people who know this area know that if you look at the hospitals, and this is across all the developed countries, more boys are born each year than girls. That's how Hashem designed us. Like we have about 5% more boys born, and maybe it's because boys are more likely to die from different things, but whatever, I don't know Hashem's reason, but this is Lamaisa how it works. The more boys are born than girls. So that's another 5%. And then maybe the rest has to do with maybe there's people entering the system or leaving, people marrying people outside the system. I don't know the exact how it all kind of works, but it ends up being between the differences that people are saying it's 4 years and it's only 2, plus more boys being born. That seems to be enough that most of that issue apparently is not affecting and preventing girls from getting married.